It's Tuesday, August 12th, 2014. I am Kevin Savitz, and this is my interview with Gray Chang. He was an Atari 8-bit programmer. He made 4 games, Dog Daze, Dog Daze Deluxe, and Bumpomov's Dogs. Those 3 were published by APX, and Claim Jumper, which was published by Synapse Software in 1982. This interview was conducted over Skype. A slightly edited version of this interview will appear in Antic, the Atari 8-bit podcast, at ataripodcast.com. I believe it will be in episode, we'll call it 15. And this is the full unedited version of the interview. If you need to contact me, I am Kevin Savitz at savitz.com, Savetz. You can contact Gray at his website, ataridogdaze.com. That's ataridogdaze, D-A-Z-E.com. Here's the interview. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Sure, I'm glad to do it.
Cool. So I am co-host of a podcast which is just about Atari 8-bit stuff, and we like to find people to interview who were there back in the day, and you were certainly one of them. And so what I hope to do is I'll take an edited version of this podcast, and will be in the edited version of this interview will be included in the podcast, and kind of an unedited version, unless we go off the record or something. But
yes.
Assuming we don't.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that in your email.
Right. So that'll be up at archive.org for posterity and history and all those other good things. So let's talk Atari.
Sure.
How did you get started with the Atari 8-bit machines? I mean, the first time you saw one or bought one, or how did you get into the fold?
Well, I played arcade video games. Like I played Space Invaders, just occasionally. I was not really a big fan, but I would just do it once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then this arcade game came along, Missile Command. You probably remember that one.
Sure.
I was really intrigued by it. I played it every day, 1 or 2 times every day, and it just really fascinated me how it worked, and the colors and the play and everything was so interesting, exciting. So I decided I wanted to do that. I wanted to make video games like Missile Command. So I applied for some jobs, but I had no experience. I was not successful in getting jobs. So I said, all right, if I can't write video games professionally, I'm going to do it just for fun. Mm-hmm. So I looked at the computers available at that time, and Atari was the best. So for what I wanted to do, so I got one and just started programming for fun. And then I wrote Dog Daze. 1981, I think it was.
Okay.
So I went to the Atari users group meetings in the Bay Area, South Bay Area, Sunnyvale, Campbell, or wherever it was. And there was a guy there who gave a demo or something, Paul Cubbage from Apex. Mm-hmm. And so I approached him and said, I wrote this game. Can I show it to you? Yeah, I said, go ahead, bring it down to our office. We'll take a look at it. So I took it down there. They liked it immediately, and they wanted to work with me. So I finished writing it. They introduced me to Chris Crawford, mm-hmm. And set up a meeting with him because I was having a problem with something. And Chris Crawford gave me a copy of Day Ray Atari, which mm-hmm. I didn't know existed at the time. I finished writing Dog Daze. They put it in the Apex catalog, and the royalties started pouring in, and the rest is history.
Wow. So Dog Daze was one of the earlier entries into the APX catalog, as I recall.
Yes, it was.
So did the royalties pour in? I mean, was it a significant?
Yeah, it was lucrative. It was good enough that I was making more money with from Dog Days than I was my regular job. So I decided to quit. I quit my job. First, I went part-time to devote more time to writing games, and then I eventually quit my job entirely and was just programming games. I would like to say full-time, but I was kind of lazy, so I was working part-time programming video games and making a good living at it.
Wow. What were you doing before? What job did you quit?
I was working at National Semiconductor as a technical writer.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I'd worked at Intel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I gave up a good job to write video games, and I
Wow.
didn't know it at the time, but wasn't going to last that long. So, uh,
Okay, so we went from you bought a Atari, and then all of a sudden you had Dog Days. Let's talk about the period in the middle. How long did it take you to learn to program, and was Dog Days your first effort? And what language was it in? And talk to me about that middle time before you
it
showed
was
up with the finished product.
right. So I got the Atari. I got a cassette recorder for recording
Mm-hmm.
programs. No disk drive. Um,
I'm sorry.
yeah. And I got the basic cartridge. So of course, the first thing I did started programming in BASIC, and I read the BASIC manual. And so I was just playing around and making colored dots appear on the screen, and then I made a crude draw program with the joysticks. I would make dots appear, different colored dots appear randomly, and I'd draw rectangles randomly, sort of a light show kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I did was I wrote a simple basic program that made a draw program, and also at the same time randomly made dots appear on the screen, and I had two joysticks, two people drawing, and then when a dot would appear on the screen, the two people drawing would naturally try to draw their line towards the new dot. I said, hey, that's a game. A dot, something appears on the screen and people race for it. So um, I looked up player missile graphics, and I started programming. I tried to animate some kind of moving, spaceship or something using player missile graphics in BASIC, and I quickly found that BASIC was too slow. I mean, the animation was slow and jerky. I said, this is not going to work. I'm going to have to do assembly language.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought an Atari Assembler Editor cartridge uh, uh, and started learning 6502 assembly language. And I bought the Atari technical manual,
Mm-hmm.
which was basically a bunch of specifications thrown together into a book, and there wasn't easy to read. I had to figure out stuff. But once I figured it out, I was able to draw to animate a dog was pretty exciting. It was just to get the dog to move across the screen left and right and up and down, and to have some very simple animation like the legs moving back and forth and tail flipping up and down. And so we started getting the game together. And it was pretty fun. It didn't take that long. I don't know, a couple of months maybe. So that's the story of Dog Days. How I got started with it.
So you made Dog Days, you showed it off, started to sell, you quit your job, and then it seemed, I mean, your next thing was Dog Daze Deluxe? Was that the next
No, the
product?
next thing I did was Claim Jumper.
That was for Synapse, right?
Yes, for Synapse.
Okay. So how did that come about?
I don't remember how I got in touch with Synapse, but they had a more generous royalty schedule. So I started working with them. They were located in Kensington, near Berkeley at the time. So I would just go there personally and say, I'm working on this game, and we signed a contract. We started working on the game, or I think I probably got started on already. As you know, Claim Jumper is This is actually similar to Dog Days, two-player game where people, the characters run around and race for something, but there's a lot more interaction than Dog Days because um, you can shoot the other player. You can pick up gold. Change it for money, and you buy bullets, and then you can shoot your opponent. And then there are these snakes and tumbleweeds crawling around on the screen. So
Hmm.
it was visually more interesting and more complex than Dog Days.
I was just watching your playthrough videos on your website and kind of looking at your games with fresh eyes, and I was impressed with Claim Jumper, just the amount of stuff that's going on the screen. A lot of movement.
Yes.
Little tumbleweeds tumbling and little snakes crawling around. And, that seemed pretty darn impressive.
Yeah. For the benefit of your listeners who don't already know, the Atari has two graphic systems, the background and foreground. The background is usually made up of characters or redefined characters. For example, in Dog Days, the fire hydrants are actually characters that you've defined, or I define the shapes for, instead of like letters like A and B and
Mm-hmm.
numbers and punctuation. I made a character that looks like a fire hydrant. And then to animate a fire hydrant that's popping up, I would make a hydrant that's just barely come out of the ground a little farther and a little farther. I just keep changing those characters and making an, for instance, instead of A, B, C, D, E being
Mm-hmm.
re, being changed in a spot, I would make the little hydrant, just barely popping up and then popping up a little more, and little popping, then fully popped up. So
Okay.
that's how you animate characters. Then the foreground is what we call player missile graphics, or on the Commodore, they're called sprites. It's a foreground that's made up. A player is actually a vertical bar that runs from top to bottom, and you can control the dots in that vertical bar. Where you have a zero, you can see through it to the background. When you have a one, you can see a solid color.
Mm-hmm.
So a dog, for example, to move left and right, you just put a number into a register, and that bar will move to whatever position you specify. So you just change a number to move the dog left and right. Now, to move up and down, you just erase and redraw that dog uh, within that bar, up and down. And where you've erased it, it's clear, and you can see the background. Where you haven't erased it, you can see the dog. And to animate it, you just erase and redraw it every frame. And so the screen gets updated once every TV frame on the. There were two world systems, NTSC and PAL. NTSC was the U.S. or North America, more North American system, which which redraws the screen 60 times a second. So you got a 60 hertz refresh cycle. The the PAL system used in Europe and most of the rest of the world redraws 50 times per second. So all the games and everything are synchronized to the refresh rate of the TV system. So you notice that the games are run slower in Europe than in the US. So when you run your emulator, you can set it to either the PAL system at 50 hertz or the NTSC system to 60 hertz. That actually changes the speed of the game. So
Mm-hmm.
people who run the emulator say, hey, this game doesn't look quite as fast as I remember it. And all you have to do is change from PAL to NTSC, and you get your the perfect time that you remember the game.
So, as a programmer, did you need to make a different version of the game for PAL systems?
No, it was actually the same software code. It just the the PAL and NTSC actually run the same software exactly. It
Mm-hmm.
just gets refreshed on the screen at a different rate, depending on which kind of Atari computer you have.
Right.
And so in your emulator, it has both versions on it, and you can
Right.
set your emulator to run either
Okay.
system. It'll run the same code the same way, but it'll run a little
Yeah.
faster on the NTSC system. I've seen
So,
people write on their on their blog or their where they comment, they'd say, "Hey, this game is not doesn't run as fast as I remember it." And those are the U.S. players running out of the default speed with the Europeans, and that's the answer to their problem. It's just set that thing and they'll get their authentic experience.
So you just did the one game for Synapse, right?
Yes.
Why?
By the time did my well, after I did Claim Jump, I was thinking about what to do next. To tell you the truth, I'm not a very creative or imaginative person. So, I should have done Bumpomop's Dogs at that point, but I didn't. I thought, well, thought back to how much people enjoy Dog Days, so I can really improve Dog Days. So I'm going to make an updated Dog Days version. I fixed several bugs and improved the screen resolution. I used a higher resolution mode to get more lifelike animation. But the main new benefit was the one-player version of the game. I programmed with artificial intelligence for the opponent so that you don't need a partner. You can play against the computer if you want to. But nobody wanted to take that game because Dog Days already existed and the sales would not be that good for something that's already out there. An improved version would not sell that well, so nobody would take it. So as far as making a living, it was not a worthwhile effort. But I still enjoyed it, and it was fun, and I'm glad I did it for that reason.
Did Synapse ask you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Synapse was not interested in Dog Daze Deluxe.
I mean, did they ask you to do another game, a different kind of Claim Jumper 2, or something completely different, or were they done with you?
I don't remember. They probably did, but this is already getting late in the game, as they say. I think the collapse was about to come. I wrote Bumpomov's Dogs. I showed it to Broderbund. They liked it, but said it wasn't original enough, and they encouraged me to keep writing games and to submit any new ideas to them. I went to sell it through Apex. They were happy to take it. Mm-hmm. In fact, they were spending a lot of money on promotion at a trade show in San Francisco for Bumpomov's Dogs. They set up a booth with Bumpomov's Dogs running. They got helium balloons with the Bumpomov's Dogs logo on it. So they were set to sell a lot of Bumpomov's Dogs. So when I went to the trade show, I got there and the Apex guy, they're saying, well, there have been some changes at Apex since we last saw you, which is like a week earlier. They laid off a whole bunch of people. This is the collapse. They laid off a bunch of people, and most of the people I knew at Apex had lost their jobs. But they'd already paid for this trade show, so they still went through with it. But it was kind of disappointing that this was happening. So I never earned any royalties at all from Bumpomov's Dogs, even though I saw people purchase Bumpomov's Dogs at the trade show. But they collapsed, and I never came through with any royalties.
So that was it. That was your whole oeuvre right there. Those 4 games, right?
Yes, that was it.
Did you create any others on the side, or anything that was unpublished or started or unfinished or anything?
No, that was it entirely. And I actually don't like video games very much. I never play video games, except I occasionally bring up my own and play Dog Daze or Bumpomov's Dogs. I still enjoy Bumpomov's Dogs. Yeah, that was my whole Atari game career. It was a great time. I had a great time. I guess that was my 15 minutes of fame, or 15 months of fame.
15 months. That was the period of
Yeah,
from when you quit your job to when you had to go back to the grind.
It was about a year or two. I don't remember exactly. It was not that long. I think the collapse was already going on, and when I was writing Buffomov's Dogs, but I didn't realize it. Uh, uh, I realized something was wrong when I got my quarterly royalty letter from Synapse. Uh, well, not only did I not earn royalties, but the returns had exceeded sales. And I actually owed them money. I owed
Oh,
Synapse money back royalties, but they never bothered to collect. So I actually kept what they gave me. So I knew something was wrong at that point, and that was when I realized I better start looking for my for a new non-game programming job.
right. So where did you go after that?
I went back to work for a national semiconductor, doing technical writing.
So your best-selling game was Dog Daze, which sold about 10,000 copies. Is that right?
Yes, on a unit basis, uh, it was um, it was Dog Days, but on an income basis, I earned more from Claim Jumper because they offered a more generous compensation. Uh, Apex gave about 10% of sales,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Claim Jumper gave around 25% to the
20,
authors,
25, you
which
said?
is which is very generous. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Did they give you when I wrote internet books early on, the publishers would give an advance on royalties, a few $1,000s to get you started. Did that happen with Synapse, or was it just strictly royalty?
No, there was no advance. It was strictly royalties, which was fine for us programmers at that time. It was just so lucrative. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Right. Sure. You could ask for an advance. That's what you could ask for.
No, we didn't need an advance. This one guy who I heard it was crazy. This one guy I heard that he bought his mother a house, and from my understanding it was that he didn't make a down payment for the house. He actually bought the house for his mom using the royalties earned from programming computer games. It was just crazy at that time.
Well,
I should have known
um,
better. It wasn't going to last.
no, nothing does. um, so, what else? What else should I ask you? What should the world know about Gray and Atari and Dog Days and things?
Well, one thing I thought you asked, but you didn't ask is why did you write two-player games?
That's
And
an excellent question. I didn't ask.
um, first of all, if you think about um, outside of computers and technology, what are games? Games are activities you engage in, either fun or exciting with other people. If you do something, if you take a soccer ball to the park and you kick it around, that's that's exercise, that's play, but that's not a game. It's not a game.
Mm-hmm.
If you get together with three other friends and set up some goals and start kicking the ball, you know, against the other players and having a competition, that's a game. That's a game is interaction with people. So then we have computer games. Why do we even call them games? I mean, any solo activity outside of computers, you would not call a game. You call it a puzzle or whatever. It's because the computer reacts. The computer is interactive with you. You do something, the computer reacts to it. So it's sort of like playing with a person, but sort of not. The computer can do a lot of things a person could not do. But on the other hand, what a person can do and a computer cannot do, I think, is is much more interesting and fun. So I think the computer is a poor substitute for a person. So my games are like a board game, like Monopoly. If you play Monopoly by yourself, it would not be very much fun. In fact, it's essentially no fun to play Monopoly by yourself. All the fun of the game of Monopoly comes from your interaction with the human players. You know, the thrill of victory, agony, defeat, and you know, laughter, aggression, whatever it is. You interact with the people, and that's what makes it fun. And that's so Dog Days is like a board game. All the fun comes from your interactions with the person you're playing with. You know, the shouts, the fear when the car is coming.
Right.
You can get Dog Daze Deluxe and play by yourself or play against the computer opponent. But I don't think that's very much fun. I mean, it's a little fun, but it's not quite the same as playing against a person.
It's better than no game at all, but
yeah, it's people that makes games fun, and that's why I program 2-player games. And also, it's easier to program a 2-player game because all the intelligence and the complexity comes from the behavior of your opponent, not from the computer. So
right.
you don't.
Which you can learn
use
in how an
natural
AI is going to
intelligence.
behave. Right.
Yeah, you use natural intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. I mean, that's what makes it the game fun to play.
So who did you play with?
Anybody who was around, friends, neighbors, you know, whoever's around. So when I first programmed Dog Daze Deluxe, the 1-player version, I took my game to my cousin's house in El Cerrito, which is near the Synapse offices, and I sat down and I said, "Hey, let's play a game of Dog Days." He said, "Sure, let's play." So we started playing, but I secretly let the computer play instead of myself, play against him, and then after a while, I put down my joystick and left the room, and he was still playing there, playing away, and it took him a while to realize that that I wasn't there. So I was testing to see how good my human emulator was working, and it was a good test.
That's funny. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting. Something I didn't know. I was watching your playthrough videos. Is that, yeah, I think it was in Deluxe. You can start playing with joystick 1 against the computer, and you can just put down the joystick and switch players, and the computer will just go, "Oh, okay," and start playing 1 while you're playing 2.
Yes, and I think I made
It's
a
a rather
mistake.
unique feature.
Yeah, I think the mistake I made is that you can only do that at the beginning. If you start the game as a 1-player game, you can switch sides.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start a 2-player game, it won't let you go to 1-player mode in the middle of the game. I can't remember why I did it that way, but if I were to redo it, I would say anytime you want it, if you're playing Dog Days Deluxe, anytime you want it, feel like it, you can just set your joystick down and the computer will take over for you, but it won't do that. It would have been very easy to implement that, but I didn't, and I can't remember why.
Well, that was, I thought, a unique feature, just being able to swap. And the other feature I really like is the split screen in Bumpomovs. We were just discussing split screen games in a episode or two ago, and we're trying to list them all, and I didn't even know about this one. But I mean, it's like your play field is taller than the screen, and if your two dogs are in the same area, that's fine. It's just one screen. But if one goes high and one goes low, there's a split just appears in the screen, and you can each do your own thing, and then it seamlessly joins up again. That's a really cool effect.
Let me tell you how I program that.
Please do.
First of all, if you see the game and watch the demo, you see obvious similarities to Pac-Man. You go through a maze and pick up dots, or I call them dog biscuits. So, it's obvious where that idea came from. And then the main fun thing you do in that game is the bumping thing. We pick up a bone and launch it against your opponent and bump him through the maze. That is also not my original idea. As I've said, I'm not really all that creative. So that idea I got from our Atari VCS game called Slot Racers by I forgot his name, but I have to say he programmed a great game, and that's where I got the idea. So so the original feature of this game is this splitting and recombining screen. So I started writing this game. I wanted to have a 2-player scrolling game, and so I thought about what happens when the two players go to different places and you can't fit them on the same scrolling screen. I thought about, is it even possible to, well, first, the most obvious way to implement that would be to be a permanent split screen, one screen for one player and one screen for the other player, so you can always see what's going on for you and the other player can always see what's going on for him. But that sort of detracts from the interaction. You really want to have the two players playing in one screen when you can, and then maybe split it only when you need to. And I thought, and then if you have a split, you want the split to be smooth. You don't want to have somebody looking at their dog and all of a sudden it jerks into a new position on the screen. And I thought, is that even possible to have a smoothly transition from a single screen to double screen? And I thought about it, it is if you're only scrolling in one dimension. If you're scrolling left and right and up and down, there's no way to have a smooth transition because there's the way that the two players move apart will determine how it splits, and you cannot have a smooth transition. So I decided I would have a scrolling game, scrolls up and down, that would smoothly split, so the dog will not jerk around during the split. It would just be right there, but the background would split, and you have a smooth transition to a split screen, and smooth transition back from a split screen to single screen. And so again, it's kind of complex. I use assembly language, and I was able to program that, and it worked. It worked. I wasn't sure how well it would work until I tried it. When I tried it, it worked great, and I was very happy with that feature and that. So if you ask me what was my proudest accomplishment in my game career, I would say it was that. Thinking the idea of doing that and implementing it to make a game that the splitting and recombining screen that really worked and people can enjoy using. Someone had
Excellent.
written to me when I put up my websites in 2003. Someone had written to me saying there's a PS2 game that uses that same feature, and they were calling it innovative and so on. And so this person had written to the company to tell them they were not the first to do it.
It is a great feature. It's a really well done effect. All right, if you could send a message to the Atari 8-bit community, and you can right now, what would you tell them?
Well, thanks for playing my game, and I really enjoy hearing from you. If you go to my website, you can send me a message. I mean, that's the reason I did this. I wanted people to enjoy my games, and I really enjoyed hearing from people who enjoyed it. Apex had this comment form people would send in, so people would write in, and Apex would forward me the comment letters, but I didn't get very many. I think I got maybe 2 or 3 altogether, even though they'd sold 10,000 copies. And the letters meant a lot to me. I mean, that was the great satisfaction of playing the game. I would go to computer stores all the time just to see if I could find my game on the shelf, and that really excited me. And so when I put up my website in 2003, I got, oh, I don't know, maybe a dozen or 2 dozen emails from people telling me, saying that, they're excited to see the website. They played the game when they were a kid. And they still play it sometimes. They really had fun. Oh, there was a blog somewhere somebody said he got into a fist fight with his brother playing Claim Jumper. And that was a fond memory of his, getting into a fist fight with his brother while playing Claim Jumper. And you know, that shows the intensity of the gameplay. And of course, it's not Claim Jumper that made him fight. It was his brother that made him fight. It's the
Right.
interaction with his brother that was that that it was an exciting interaction. Maybe not. Maybe it was a little too exciting, but you can
That's
just
why
tell
you
that
that's why
that
you make two-player games, right? To make
yeah,
brothers fight.
it was the my game allowed them to do something exciting together uh, that they remember as a good experience in their past. And there's some people. Somebody wrote to me and saying, you know, my friends are all up on the latest PS2 games or whatever it was at the time, but they still ask for to get out Claim Jumper and play Claim Jumper because it's so exciting, it's so fun, and they really get into it. So that's the pleasure.
Um,
The pleasure I get is is from hearing from people who enjoyed it. So if you've played Dog Days or Claim Jumper or Bumpomov, especially Bumpomov's Dogs, because no one ever played it back then. The only people are playing who ever played it are the people who are picking it up now,
hmm,
30 years later. Um,
right.
if you send me an email, I would really appreciate it. So
I
that's
thought of
my
another
message.
question. Great, thank you. That an excellent message. Um, did piracy affect you back then? Did I mean I know you made some good money from it, but were you sitting there going, "Wow, I could have made 10 times as much if those dirty pirates hadn't copied my game"? Or
Well,
how did you think of it then? How do you think of it now?
I don't know how much I was affected by piracy, but I was doing fine financially until the collapse, of course. Um, so how can I complain? Uh, if people, it's more important that people enjoy the game. If even if they have to steal it, like I said, rather have them steal it and play it than to not steal it and not play it. I mean, obviously the thing I would have liked best is for them to buy it, but if they didn't want to spend the money or couldn't afford it, and they steal it and play it, what's it to me? I just want everybody to have fun. So
Right.
to answer your question, no, I was not affected.
Okay.
Oh, and
Well,
I
I
was
pirated your
very.
game. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Um, I was. What was I going to say? I used to be very protective of my source code. I didn't want people copying my ideas.
Hmm.
But now I don't care. So to this morning I went and found my source code floppies, and I'm ready to um, lend them to you to copy and post on the internet. All the
Oh,
source code for all my
excellent.
games. Uh, uh,
Oh, that would be
so,
exciting.
and one thing that would be good for me is there are a few changes I want to make in Bumpomov's dogs. For example, instead of filling the whole maze full of dog biscuits, I should have
Mhm.
only put in 199 biscuits in the maze so that there's just barely enough to have a contest between the two players. Potentially, each dog could collect 99 biscuits and have only one biscuit left in the maze. You can imagine the ferocity of the competition for that. Bumping each other, and then at the last moment, one of those reward scores might pop up and change the what might happen. Change the outcome of the game at the very last moment. So it would be, more exciting if I put fewer, just put the minimum number of biscuits in the maze. Uh, but of course, to do that, I need that source code and
I like
a
that
very
idea.
simple matter to you know, probably 10 or 20 lines of code to reduce the number of biscuits in
Do you
the
think
maze.
it's still you have enough assembly language in your head that you can do it?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I would have to remember. I used a synassembler, by the way. Anybody out there, if you want to program an assembly language, forget the Atari editor cartridge, assembler editor cartridge. Use a synassembler instead. That's a Synapse assembler. It runs about 100 times faster. So when I would like compile the or assemble a game like Dog Daze, it might take 5 minutes to assemble it with the Atari assembler editor, but with the Synassembler would take like 5 seconds. It was just that
Wow.
big a difference. Now there's
Well,
slight
it's a
differences
whole
in the
nother world
syntax.
now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's slight difference in syntax between the Atari assembler editor and the Synapse Synassembler. So you have to, if you're going to learn one, learn the Synapse Synassembler. I think you can download it for free nowadays. Um, I don't know. Are there people still programming games for the Atari?
Yeah, there are. There certainly are. The new games come out, you know, semi-frequently. There's a user group in Germany that has programming contests, game programming contests, and every year there's 20 entries of really high quality games. Um,
Well, that's
so
surprising.
absolutely,
I mean,
yeah,
the computers advanced so much, and yet people are still doing this uh, by modern standards, a very simple, crude computer system. Um, and yet the games are fun. I think the the amount of fun you can get from Atari is no less than what you can get from today's computers. I mean, today
absolutely.
you have fine graphics and all kinds of sound capabilities and so on. But are the games any more fun? I don't think so.
No, sometimes they're super less fun because there's no playability there. They're pretty and they sound good, but there's no there sometimes.
Yes, yes. So I'm glad that people are still programming the Atari and using their creative juices and um, creating new things. So
Yeah,
it was a great time for me. Being more of a technical person than artistic or creative, it was a way for me to be artistic in a way. So and have people enjoy it. That was a very satisfying thing.
so if I'll email you my address and you'll lend me those discs, and I can
Yes.
get the source code out to you in the world.
Okay.
That'd be
And you're a
great.
collector of Atari memorabilia. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
I can give you a couple of Claim Jumper posters
Ooh,
and
awesome.
Apex Apex instruction book for Dog Days.
Oh, that'll be awesome. Thank you. I'll get those scanned too. The instructions.
Okay.
Get them online. I'd appreciate that very much. Would you sign a poster for me?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. I'll sign a poster for you.
Awesome. It'll go up on my wall. That'll be great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about. I've really been on a quest to try to find source code that's not out there and get it online for the world before all the discs rot away. And they're starting to do it. I mean, sometimes they're just the discs are old and they're sad,
Oh.
and so it's exciting that you kept them. Did you keep the letters from? You said you back in the day you got a couple of letters from people who
Yeah, I
use the
probably have
software.
those
Do you still
letters.
still have that?
I have those stashed away somewhere.
If you find them, scan them please, or send them to me, and I'll scan them if you're willing to share them. Be interesting
They're
to
not that
see
exciting.
what people
The
say.
stuff I got 10 years ago when I first set up my website, they were more exciting.
Right.
But if I have to look, because it's paper, I got stacks of paper, so it might be hard to find, or might not. I'll have to
Right.
look.
Cool. All right. Anything else?
That's all I can think of.
All right. Me too.
All right.
Thank you so much, Gray.
Oh, yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Okay, bye.
Have a great one.